Good to see you, Chris.
It's good to be seen. It's good to see you as well. I love that shirt. I love that sweater
Well,
you have on today.
thank you.
Very fitting.
That is
Thank
nice.
you.
And now stay tuned for another original Studio B production right here on the Voice17104.com.
Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to the Richard James Show on 17104, The Voice.
It's always a blessing each week to come on and deal with meaningful topics. We're blessed again today to have two old friends. Two, I consider you an old friend. Hey, that's where I'm at. And we have two practicing attorneys that have a long record of involvement in public service. And we have Miss Kathy Waters, born and raised in Harrisburg, one of our prominent attorneys locally. Welcome, Kathy.
Hello,
Welcome.
thank you. Thank you.
And here we have a friend of mine that we've known each other for, wow, I would say almost 30 years. It's been a long, long time. Uh, Originally uh, from the Steel City, and now a really resident and a very prominent resident of the city of Harrisburg. Um, my good friend Peter Speaks. Welcome, Peter. Good to see you.
Welcome, Richard, and I'm honored and delighted to be here with you and my good friend Kathy Waters as well.
Well,
Same here.
there's a lot going on in the world today that I thought that it was really time uh, to get people who are aware of what's happening in our nation to come on and really take a look at some of the major issues that's striking us today. Just to throw out a few things, and we'll get started on one or the other. It is a 1 year anniversary of the Biden administration. Joe Biden, President of the United States of America, uh, and whose vice president is Kamala Harris, who is also an attorney. So we got some great legal minds here today. I think Joe's an attorney also. Uh, so we're going to take a look at what's happening. We're going to take a look at Joe's first year. He has been hit with some really, really difficult problems. First of all, to be hit with a worldwide virus that is killing people all over the world. Uh, Major to walk in the door to have to deal with something like that. To walk in the door uh, after an administration that spent the last 4 years, and I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to tell you exactly what my opinion is, and I want to hear yours. Spent 4 years destroying the reputation of our great nation. Uh, we have a reputation in the land of the free and the home of the brave of being concerned with people. That's our reputation. And when there's disaster that strikes, it's been our reputation to come in and help and do something about it. But our relationship with other countries greatly damaged. Personally, I think that Joe Biden walks in as a former president for 2 terms, a vice president, I'm sorry, after 2 terms in the Obama administration has set up a track record. So I would like to get a reaction overall, just to start out the show, uh, is to see what do you think of the record. Just 1 year, it's only been a year of Joe Biden. Now, there's one other issue too. At some point that I want to get with, we have never had an African American female on the Supreme Court. Never happened. Of course, we've never had an African American female as vice president of the United States. So we want to talk about that also. I see that as another very, very important issue. And I understand there's also uh, some openings for judges in our local county here in Dauphin. So that's a whole. So there's a whole range of things. But I would like to start out dealing with Joe Biden, who grew up in Claymont, Delaware. Everybody says he's from Scranton. He was 4 years old when he left Scranton. He grew up in Claymont, which is 5 miles from my hometown, Chester, Pennsylvania. And so, but anyway, whoever wants to start first, let's this kind of deal with Joe Biden and his year past. Well, maybe I should say, Kathy, you want to start? Doesn't matter, you know.
Sure. I'm trying to speak. Let me say what I feel first, because
Yes.
I know that people have some really frustrated feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's understandable.
It is.
But if we look at through a camera lens of 1 year, he has been able to help people from going hungry. Okay. That is an important thing. He's helped people from going hungry. When this pandemic first hit, COVID-19, I don't know if people remember seeing on the television the lines, cars and cars and cars, people not having food. People are still losing their homes, you know, whether they're renting them or owning them. So I do believe that the stimulus package was very key. We can't forget that. It's very easy for us to look at what we don't have and look at it as the glass half empty, as what we do have, the glass half full, because we could have had even more deaths. So that legislation was very important just for survival. And I believe that it is good that he was able to pass the legislation to deal with our roads and our bridges, our infrastructure. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to help as of yet with the human infrastructure, but things are getting done. He has actually gotten more judges through in his short window of time than several presidents. So I want to accentuate the positive, and of course, since Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, she's also a sorority sister of mine. So I'm going to say props to her, because she has to assist them through a difficult time where they have another body of the legislation that will not help. So, but I do understand the frustrations, because there are things we need, and we needed them yesterday, like voting rights. I ask you guys, what do you think?
Agree with everything that my dear friend Kathy has indicated with respect to the first year of President Biden. And certainly, Richard, as you have mentioned, there have been a number of issues confronting this country and the headwinds that we face. And certainly, as you again alluded to, when he took over, the prior administration, the president did everything they could, not just with the mishandling of the pandemic and the disinformation and misinformation that followed, and destroying many of our relationships abroad and creating further polarization and division throughout the entire country. So certainly President Biden and Vice President Harris were a welcome breath of fresh air. And as we all know, that Biden was largely elected by, or not elected by, but his presidency or his campaign for the presidency was resuscitated in South Carolina when it was all but on life support. And after the support of Jim Clyburn, Representative Clyburn, and blacks in South Carolina, then the tide turned for him, and he went on to win a number of other states. So, and obviously, as Kathy has alluded to, there has been some frustration, particularly among blacks with respect to some of the things he has not been able to do. But again, overall, I think that he has done a good job. It's first year, and certainly there were some troubling headwinds, as we've mentioned, and now we see issues with the voter suppression, and that's another issue that we'll hopefully touch on, and obviously what's happening in Ukraine. But with respect to the pandemic, more persons have been vaccinated now. I think about maybe close to 65% of the entire country, or those eligible for vaccinations, have been vaccinated. They're now looking at vaccinations for children under 5 as well. And so that number has increasingly gone up. And even though we've dealt with the Omicron virus and now subvariant possibly of that, but I think that his handling, he has to get high marks for the handling of the virus. And obviously now there were issues with, on the border, with migrants streaming into the border, and a number of other issues that he is confronted with. And as Kathy mentioned, obviously he was able to get the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is about $1.75 trillion. But again, there are other issues out there, dealing with police reform, criminal justice reform, and of course, civil rights as well. And so those are some of the issues that I think have been frustrating to many blacks on these issues. But I think as a reflection point, though, I think he has overall done a good job, but there's still a lot of work that has to be done, particularly, as we said, on the issue of voting rights, given the fact that there are 47 states that they have passed rather onerous, restrictive measures to prevent blacks from voting, which is what, has commonly been referred to as Jim Crow 2. So that's an issue that still has to be front and center in terms of the Biden administration.
I think that Biden has done what he said he's going to do. It is refreshing to me to have a president of the United States that doesn't lie and lie and lie and lie, that has no integrity whatsoever, and where the truth is not a part of his personality. Biden won the election by over 7 million votes. That is the greatest majority in the history of any presidential election in history. 7 million. He went to court after court after court after court to try to destroy the election. And even his appointees, individuals that he placed on the bench, were against him and said it was a big lie. Even his vice president, who oversees the Electoral College, said that he had no ability to disrupt, or shall we say, annihilate or destroy what the Electoral College had decided, that his job was procedural. So Biden comes in, and then on top of that, before you take office, January 6th, you have an insurrection where the president of the United States encourages his cohorts, right-wing element in this country, to attack. Excuse me, I could not believe what my eyes were seeing, that the capital of the United States under siege, and that we were not prepared to handle that siege. I'm just saying those things. That's a background for this man taking office. And at the same time, Republicans throughout the country, and I'm really, really disappointed with the Republican Party. And I used to be a Republican. I was a Republican for over 20 years, and I'm not ashamed of it. I fought when I was in the Republican Party. I was chairman of what they call the Frederick Douglass Club, located in Seattle, Washington. But you had some decent Republicans, maybe not a whole lot of them, but you had some decent Republicans, the Rockefeller Republicans, the Scranton Republicans that were pro-civil rights. But Biden came in under the gun with major crises facing him, and with individuals that said the same thing they said about Barack Obama, is that we're going to make sure that this man does not succeed. So I think he's pushing on. I think he's had 1 year, and the voting rights is key, because without passing that legislation and getting that done, we may have a very, very difficult time with midterm elections. That's where I'm at.
Agreed.
Anyone that wants to follow up on that, please do.
I was just going to say agreed as far as concerning the challenges that we're really facing in the upcoming elections, and it saddens me because I truly believe that you live by the golden rule, where everyone's heard the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and for us to treat our own citizens in such a way to make it so onerous for them to exercise their right to vote when you wouldn't want it done to you. It's a little saddening.
I think that our democracy, quite frankly, is under attack.
Yes, sir.
And the soul of this nation as well is on the president as a result of the ongoing efforts to undermine the right to vote. And to your point, Richard, with respect to the insurrection, to prevent the constitutional and legitimate transfer and peaceful transfer of power to a newly elected president. And so I think it portends or raises real serious concerns with respect to our democracy, which this administration, the past administration rather, clearly supported Trump.
Yes.
And attempted to undermine and sabotage. And I think the current investigation that is going on is certainly leading to that and shedding light on how far and how dangerous we came to becoming an autocracy and overturning our democracy. And it's still in some circles, I have read or listened to persons some scholars that have said that, in fact, that how close we came to an autocracy and what some have referred to as an anocracy, which is somewhere between a democracy and an autocracy. And so it's something that it's not something that we can really, get comfortable with in terms of our democracy. It's something that, as we know, we have always had to fight for, particularly as African Americans.
Yes.
And I think that fight is before us again in a direct form of violent overtake and resurrection, which Biden had to deal with as well, which we're still in deal with some of the aftermath of that as well, in terms of the stability of our institutions of government and governing, which leads into the whole issues you said of voting rights and what's going on. And of course, unfortunately, the voting rights legislation has not passed, largely due to two Democrats, Senator Manchin and Kristen Sinema in Arizona, who refused to carve out portions of the filibuster that would allow a 50 majority vote or changes in the rules to end the filibuster, to carve out a certain exception to it, to allow the federalization or voter rights to move forward. And again, let me just simply say, I mean, because of what's going on in this country now, as we know, the obstacles that are being put up by the Republicans to suppress the vote. Even though in some elections, such as in Pennsylvania, the statewide elections for all offices, they didn't have a problem with that. It was only the national election. And so they're undertaking measures now to, put obstacles in place that would prevent mail-in voting and require voter ID and interfering with election officials or overturning their certification. Georgia law, of course, would prevent persons from even giving water or snacks standing in line, reducing polling places. And so, these measures are part of a nationwide, systemic, pervasive effort by the Republican Party to restrict access to the ballot box today.
Yes, sir.
So, that is very concerning and what we must continue to, push back against.
If I may add, I don't believe that there were issues even with the national election. I don't. I believe that some people have chosen to say that, even though they don't believe that. I believe that there are some that have been convinced of that. But I don't even believe that there were problems, widespread problems, or real issues with the national election. And I'm really concerned as a citizen because I feel like we're at the fork in the road. And if January 6th is allowed to be okay with 25 to 30% of America, they're not thinking, those particular people are really not thinking about it. But what happens when, or I hope it doesn't happen, but what happens if 60 something percent of the country doesn't like what happens in the next election? And they say, okay, well, since you guys thought it was okay to do what happened on January 6th, then we can do what we want now, and we're the majority. And it's just, seeing America as a society of anarchy is scary.
Very scary. Very, 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 very scary. And I totally agree with the both of you when you say that our democracy is being attacked and under siege. That's absolutely true. And we are the world's leading democracy. So if we're under attack and we're under siege, and if Donald Trump or whoever it is able to overturn our election, what does that say for our global political situation? It says that we have got to be strong. I think that, and I'll be quite honest with you, I think that we need to support Biden. I think and he cannot do it without us. He can't. Midterms election are generally very difficult for the administration that's in power. And we had a very close alignment here. When you take a look at the House of Representatives, the Democrats lead by only a few votes. And then when you look at the Senate, the 50-50 configuration, and you think about another election coming up, it's quite possible that we could lose the House of Representatives and could lose the Senate. And if we do, and even if Donald Trump is not the president in the foreseeable future, there's a lot of sick individuals that are out there that can make it very, very difficult for this country and really very difficult for the world. We got a situation that's developing in Russia. Very, very difficult. Putin, who was a former spy, is trying to reconstruct the Soviet Union. really trying to go in and retake countries, that kind of thing. And all of this is on Biden's plate. And that's why it's really, really, really important, I think, to really take a close look at what is happening politically. I'm really, really concerned, really, really concerned. And also, and I know I'm defending Biden, but I think very well of one thing I like about Biden. One thing, let me just say this. I love Obama. Obama had interpersonal skills uh, that I think that some of our presidents didn't have. Plus, he had a dynamic first lady that's off the chart in terms of brilliance and in terms of intelligence and also be able to do things. I agree with that. But I think there was some more that Obama could have done. And considering his situation, in fact, he was the first black president, he didn't. And I see Biden jumping in the water and getting it done. Uh, Secretary of Defense, African American. You look at the representative to the United Nations, African American. Vice President, African American. I think that he has had more courage to do some things that were not done even in an Obama. And Obama's a good man. There's no question about it. All right.
I would agree with you, Richard. But let me also just comment, though, by saying that I think we all have great affection and respect and admiration for President Obama.
Oh, yes.
And many persons wanted to see Michelle Obama run for president.
I, for
Yes.
one,
And she would have made an excellent president.
I've been right there on the train, boy.
Here, here.
Working well, you better believe it. I'm telling you
Yeah.
straight up.
Yeah, but she said that she was repulsed by politics. She hated politics.
That's what she said.
Yeah,
He's pretty darn good at it to be repulsed.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's just too honest. I think. But yeah, I mean, there's, as you said, I mean, there's a lot going on in Ukraine. We see now where Putin has ordered troops into territories as a pretext for invading Ukraine.
Right.
And so trying to destabilize much of what's going on in Europe. And so that certainly is something that, the Biden administration has to deal with. But also, he came into office too with because of what happened as a result of the insurrection and even what led up to the insurrection, but a highly divisive and polarized country because many of the racist practices and policies and ideologies and philosophies that really permeated the country under the Trump administration, where a lot of the undercurrent came to the surface in terms of the institutions of bias and racism. So Biden was also dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then we had the George Floyd killing. Unfortunately, there was a conviction. And then today we just learned, of course, of the conviction in federal court of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah, so the jury
All
came
three.
back. Yeah.
All three.
Okay, all three.
Fantastic.
In Georgia. So there was concern whether or not they would have enough proof because they had to show that they killed him as a result of his race, to come under the hate crime federal statute. And so they found them guilty. And so, of course, they were found guilty too in state court. So they and were given life sentences without parole, with the exception of one who has the possibility of parole. So they'll also face life sentence. So my point, though, is that you have a country too that's on the brink, not just in terms of from a geopolitical standpoint, that the isolationist that approach that and hands-off approach that Trump took, particularly towards Putin, who was sort of his, and other dictators. So you're dealing with all that on top of issues of voting rights and voter suppression and infrastructure needs and all that. But one thing I also wanted to mention, when you talk about the slim margin in both the House and in the Senate, and here, even here in Pennsylvania, we have a very important Senate race coming up, and many persons are running for that. But the head of the Senate, with respect to voter registration or voter rights, Mitch McConnell said that the concern about voting rights is misplaced because the statistics, now this is according to the head, the
minority leader.
Republican-led senator,
Right.
he said that the concern is misplaced because African Americans are voting in just the same high percentage as Americans. African Americans are voting at the same rate as Americans. So what he is saying that
we're not American.
We're not Americans.
Right.
This is the minority leader of the Senate, which
That's it.
basically embodies the thinking, I'm sure, of many of the Republicans in the Senate. But this is what we're up against, Richard, and why it's so important. And I know that you, many persons don't know this, and as Black history, I want to say this, but Richard James has also been has been in the vanguard and has been at the pinnacle and involved in the trenches of voting rights and civil rights and human rights throughout this country, while in Seattle, Washington, and Pennsylvania, and in Chester, and has been one of those leaders and African-American figures that we should acknowledge and recognize for, Richard, your contributions and sacrifice in the fight that you're still taking on today. So when you
thank you.
Of yourself and so many others over the years, and we know that the legacy and history of many, and the whole litany of those, Medgar Evers and Dr. King and Merle Evers and Ida B. Wells and Fannie Lou Hamer, and so many, and you're in that category as well, but we're still fighting this same fight. And then we look at the voter suppression, look at what they're doing throughout this country and what the leader, the minority leader is saying. They're not even saying we're Americans. And so, the fight is continuing. And we have, for not just our generation, but the next generation and the generation beyond that.
Well, I appreciate your compliments, but I think we've all been soldiers in this fight. We've all done what we could do where we are from those positions in this fight, and we continue that struggle. A lot of people know what's there, but they're afraid. They're afraid to really step up and do what is necessary. But today, quite honestly, I lived through the 60s. I lived through the 50s. And I saw assassination after assassination. I saw JFK, 1963, assassinated. I saw Malcolm X, 1965, assassinated. I saw Martin Luther King, 1968, assassinated. But I think that we have the same, and a lot of people don't know that there were at least 5 attempts on Obama's life. They kept it out of the paper. There were at least 5 attempts at assassination of Obama when he was president in his 8 years. And I just thank God, because one of the things when he was first elected, I said, Lord, I hope we can stay in for 8 years and stay alive, because we have a very dangerous situation. We have some militias, right-wing militias that are out there that will commit violence, have no problem in committing violence and that kind of thing. So we got to look at also this whole weaponry thing. Look at the right to bear arms, because I'm not concerned with the right to buy arms. I legally have arms, but I think that there are individuals who don't need arms, that are insane and that break laws and are willing to cause violence. So it's just so much out there, and we've got to have an administration in place that cares about those things, and you get one of these right-wing conservative Republicans or conservative Democrats. I'm not going to let the Democrats off the hook. When you got a man over there in West Virginia who's a former attorney general, a former governor of West Virginia, that's blocking the president of the United States from carrying out the people's agenda, something has to be done about that. This has to be. I'm not sure exactly what. Other, I would oppose him in his election. That's what I would do. But because I don't think that and he's quite proud of the position that he's taken in order to block legislation. But anyway,
If I may say, we also have to have a fair and equal administration of the laws as they exist. Because if you look at what happened with the police officer, I think it was Kim Potter with Dante Wright in Minnesota.
yeah,
I mean, she said she made a mistake and meant to pull her taser and pulled her gun. Found guilty by a jury. And she got 2 years.
oh,
Actually, not even 2 years, because she had already served about 58 days or close to 60 days at least of her time. So then you look and you have others, and I cannot think of the lady's name right now, but just trying to vote. She thought she could vote. She checked with the probation office, and they're looking at 5 and 6 years of jail time. So you can murder someone and get less than 2 years, but you can get 5 or 6 years for trying to exercise your right as a citizen and vote. There has to be criminal justice reform. The judges can't do it, but really only the citizens can do it by who they elect as their legislatures and the laws that they choose to take up. There has to be some type of change or modification of the criminal justice system led by the legislatures. It has to happen.
They were looking at that also, Kathy, at the federal level in terms of overhauling the criminal justice, meaningful changes to the criminal justice system, and make it more fair and more equitable, and at every level, in terms of the local criminal justice reforms or sentencing guidelines. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it was a travesty and sick, disgusting that the judge in the Kim Potter case, and the judge even filed a motion over it and was tearing up over sentencing this woman who killed an unarmed and innocent
20-year-old man
as a result of an air freshener in his car, and she gets a slap on the wrist. And as Dante Wright's mother said, that obviously the white tears trumped justice. And to see that, and then when you see the no-knock warrant, that resulted in the killing of Amir Locke while he was covered in his blankets.
That's right.
This continues, or the FedEx driver who was chased down and shots were fired at him by a couple of white men. So there's still an awful lot going on that we have to be cognizant of, and as you were saying, Richard, in terms of keeping that struggle at every level. And so criminal justice reform, gun legislation reform, sensible, meaningful reforms, that all of which have been blocked, though.
That's right.
And it by Manchin and Sinema. And what has to be done, obviously, is that in those states, those persons are going to have to let their voices be heard. And I know that in Arizona, the state Democratic Party is putting up another candidate against Sinema. Now, Manchin is a fixture in Virginia, and it's a very conservative red state. So that's going to be a little more challenging. But we have to get those persons out who are not going to advance the goals and values and objectives of the party in terms of fair, equitable, and meaningful progressive agendas that they won on. And so it's really at risk in terms of the slim majority. Well, the House is projected to go Republican. Hopefully that's not the case with McCarthy now being leader of the House. That's going to be disastrous, I think, for this country, because he's nothing more than, more or less a lapdog for
That's right.
for Trump. And if the Senate goes, and that obviously is going to present some challenges as well. So we have a race here for Senate. Pat Toomey is not running again. And so we have to, again, build these coalitions that will elect the people to truly represent the interests of their constituents.
Totally agreed. Totally agreed. And we have to have some working together between the justice system, the administration, and we got to work together with some consistency. But right now, I don't know, unless we raise up our voices, and we also got to make sure we get the information out there. I've been watching these political announcements for the Commonwealth, for the judgeship, and I haven't seen very many at all from the Democrats. I've seen a whole lot of announcements for the Republicans, but that's a terrible thing. And the other thing is that I'm hoping that before our current governor leaves office, I understand that there is a judgeship that's open in Dauphin County. Where is that now? What's the situation with that? We have any idea of some of the individuals he's considering? Is there any possibility that an African American or African American woman could fill that? Anyone has any idea of what's going on with that appointment there? I think it's Dauphin County.
Well, we have one of our guests on today, that Kathy Waters, that would be an excellent nominee candidate for the Common Pleas Court of Dauphin County, which only has one African American and no African American women.
Right.
Thank you, Peter.
If I may say, and I say this not because she is my dear friend, whom I admire and love and respect dearly, but because she's eminently qualified. She has the experience and the compassion, and what it would take to be on the bench. And so the governor has that opportunity to do it. Now, that being said, whenever there are generally appointments, and Kathy they know this as well, better than I. It's always politics, though, in relationships.
Yes, indeed.
That whenever there is a potential vacancy on a bench, they generally come as a package. That the Republicans want some appointments, and the Democrats obviously want some appointments. So I don't know where that stands now in terms of where that might be, from what I understand, holding it up in terms of, sort of a packet deal with respect to an appointment to various judicial vacancies throughout the Commonwealth and or either on Commonwealth Court. I'm not sure why there hasn't been, because I think that vacancy, and Kathy can correct me, I think it may have existed now for at least, several months, or 2 or 3 months at least. So I'm not sure where the governor's office stands on this, but the point being, we need someone like Kathy on the bench. I also hurriedly mentioned, and then we can maybe segue into the appointment by Biden. But currently, Allegheny County, I don't know if you're aware of this, elected 3 women of color, 3 African-American women to the bench in Allegheny County.
I did not know that. That is wonderful.
Judge Rena Watson, Judge Tiffany Sizemore,
Okay.
Judge Nicola Henry Taylor were all elected in Allegheny County. Now, they will also join several other African Americans, Judge Kim Clark, Judge Wayne Woodruff, Judge Joe Williams, and another gentleman who's former public defender. So they will have 8 or so persons of African Americans on the bench in Allegheny County. Yet, and there are numerous African Americans on the in Common Police Court, Philadelphia, and they don't have any problems getting African Americans in Philadelphia. But in Dauphin County, we have one for years, which was Judge Morrison. Now we have Judge Royce Morris, who's just an outstanding judge. But there needs to be a woman of color, a Black woman, not just a woman of color, but a Black woman on the bench in Dauphin County.
Yeah, we need
And
Kathy
Peter, if
Waters
I
on
could,
Dauphin.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Kathy, I think we need you on in that situation. I wonder what the situation is, because it seems to me we can't wait for the governor to act. I'm hoping that individuals will come out in support of people like Kathy, or Kathy in particular. I and I don't know, where you start, but we got organizations in this area. We got all the sororities, we got the fraternities, we have the NAACP, we got a lot of individuals, organizations, and I hate to wait now. I have not been overly impressed with this governor in terms of his appointment of African American. In fact, I've been under impressed, to tell you the truth. He has appointed some people, but I think he has a way he can do better. And I think that this for an appointment he could put in an African American would be excellent. But no, I have been terribly pleased. Maybe I was spoiled by Governor Casey, really, really spoiled, because that man appointed more African Americans than any other governor in history combined. But I have not seen that since then, and I'm hoping we can get to him and let him know where we stand in terms of that. But I'm going to do something. I'm not going to sit back. I'm going to tell you that. I'm not sitting back. I don't know how to do that. Go ahead.
Well, I want to take a minute and thank you both for just having faith in my abilities and your support. I just want to see some things happen in Dauphin County. It's easier for us to get people elected in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, but Dauphin County is still it's almost like a last resort with the hold on it. You've had the Court of Common Pleas since about 1776. So you're talking longer than the Supreme Court of the United States, which was 1790. And you may have had about 232 judges, Supreme Court justices, and not a Black woman. Only 2 Black men, Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas. But in Dauphin County, you've had about 439 judges in Dauphin County. Yet you've only ever had 2 men of color, and you've never had an African American female. Now, it's past time, but I don't even just say it just to put someone up.
No.
But you can't tell me in my 26 years as being an attorney, as being a deputy district attorney in Dauphin County, as working for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission on discrimination, you can't tell me that there are not African American females that have been qualified to sit on that bench. So I don't know who has an ear to him. I do know that Judge Richard Lewis, he retired in December 31st of 2021, and it's within the governor's power to appoint someone to the remainder of his term. And I say, what better thing to do than to get the qualified diversity on the bench so that they can serve some of the very people that they represent. Everyone is not Caucasian. Everyone's not female. Everyone's not Republican or a Democrat, because there's independents. The court has to get diversified.
Agreed. Totally agreed. And somehow we have to get to our governor. He's a good man. He's a very good man. I met him during the Ed Rendell campaign. Our organization, Peter, you were involved. Our organization, People's Political Action, Action. We had several fundraisers for Ed Rendell, and we after Ed won, we celebrated at his election, and the speaker there was our current governor, Ed didn't come. He represented Ed. But Kathy, I wish you the best. The thing about it is not just because you're a nice person, but just a few things that you said shows that you have the skills and the background to do it, and that's what's important. We need good folks that know what they're doing and also care, because we can have all the skills in the world, but if you really don't care about people, you really don't care about democracy, really don't care about justice, it doesn't mean anything. But something's got to happen, and the only way it's going to happen is we make it happen.
Yes.
So,
As Kathy had also mentioned, I mean, obviously she brings a lot to, or would bring a lot to the, which is what you need. For all the reasons you've articulated and Kathy has articulated as well. And also you need that different perspective also.
yes.
In terms of diversity.
Absolutely.
We know that. I mean, we've been involved in public service our entire lives. And if we're not in the room, we're not at the table, we're not on the bench, then, or in the boardrooms, then our interests are either non-existent or greatly marginalized.
Yeah.
So, but certainly on with respect to an appointment to the bench here, that diversity and difference of perspectives and lived experiences and the insight that Kathy and other Black women or persons would bring to the bench, and that, Richard, you and I brought to meetings and conversations at the highest levels, it makes a difference. I mean, I was able, because of Richard, that was, my second foray into government with respect to the Auditor General's office, having worked, for a while with the prior administration. I mean, not the prior administration, but the Governor Casey Sr.
Yes.
And I came back into government as a result of your efforts in working with the Auditor General Casey, now Senator Casey. So it's because of persons opening doors and persons bringing different perspectives and insights with respect to our experiences, is invaluable with respect to diversity. And certainly that applies, to the bench as well.
And Peter, you have always shown, first of all, amazing skills and intellect. That's the first thing. And leadership in terms of wherever you were. And you always cared about folks, about our people. And you've been supportive in bringing people like Kathy, for example, into into major positions. People who are competent, people who care, that kind of thing. And somehow, and we got some other people that are in government. We got Kerry Kirkland, for example, who is a deputy secretary in the Department of General Services, having equal opportunity, and who's pushing to get African Americans in. We have other people that are doing that. Have I been totally pleased with this governor in terms of appointments? No, I have not. But it would help my case for him if he would appoint an African American female to the court. It would certainly help. I would have liked to have seen more, but it just hadn't happened. But it's not too late to get it done. It's not too late at all. So I want to say this to our governor's office and to appoint, hey, it's time to get something done. If the president of the United States has the nerve and the gall to say, hey, I'm going to put an African American female to the bench. That's going to happen. And there's a lot of qualified, intelligent, well prepared African American females to do that. Take a look on what's happening through the country. And I'm going to say this: African American females are getting it done. Look at all of the mayor of San Francisco. It's just throwing something out. The mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. The mayor of Washington, D.C. Okay? These things are happening throughout the country.
Richard, the mayor of Harrisburg.
Correct.
Thank
I was
you.
just getting ready to
Thank
add
you.
that.
Forgive me.
Tamara.
Forgive me.
I
I
was
should have
just getting
mentioned her
ready.
name first. Yes,
Yes,
my good
Wanda
friend,
Williams.
Wanda Williams, who has been in the game for a long time. Please.
Long time.
And I want her on this show. I like to lift up Wanda because Wanda has been very supportive of things that I've tried to do.
And let's not forget the borough of Stilton, Mayor Sierra Dent, African American.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
right.
Brother Steve. Thank you.
And Ed Gainey, African American male, Pittsburgh. I agree.
Yes.
The African American women are getting it done, but we want to not forget the brother, though. Ed,
That's right.
first
Cannot
African
forget our
American
brothers.
in the history of Pittsburgh.
Fantastic.
Mm.
And what about the mayor of New York?
Yes.
Yes.
African American male. Coming out front and not afraid to speak his mind.
Yeah, but
And
Richard,
do
let me
some
say this though, because
Yes,
you
sir.
said, and I agree with you, this would have sent a message and really been one of the culminating points, or can be, of Governor Wolf's tenure, to a point how significant that would be.
Would be
Legacy.
That would
It
be
would create
for the
part of his
Commonwealth,
legacy.
not just for our communities, obviously, but for the Commonwealth and for Dauphin County and Harrisburg, Central Pennsylvania, to appoint an African American woman. He can say that. I'm going
Yes,
to
he can.
because Biden said it during the campaign. He promised that if a vacancy occurred on the Supreme Court, he would appoint an African American woman, the first. Biden said it.
He said it.
He repeated it, and he has pledged to it. As a matter of fact, he's going to make his appointment to the Supreme Court by the end of the month. The interviews have already started.
That's correct.
Short list are, who's the DC Circuit Court Judge, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and then you have Justice Leandra Kruger from the California Supreme Court, and Judge Michelle Childs, who's
Yes.
a judge in South Carolina, who Jim Clyburn has been pushing.
That is correct.
Yes, that just like here in Dauphin County with Kathy being eminently qualified, with
Yes.
Tasha Williams and others, and other women that are eminently qualified for an appointment to Dauphin County bench, the governor can do that, just like Biden is prepared to do that, and he said it, even though there were some critics who said, even African American law professors that I read were saying that, well, sort of gives the impression of affirmative action and all that. Look, Reagan said he was going to appoint a woman. Nobody said it was affirmative action, and he appointed a woman to the bench, and even appointed Ruth Gator Ginsburg, and then even Trump said he would appoint a woman.
And he did.
They got Amy Coombs Barrett.
So
He did.
exactly. So now people want to say it's affirmative action always when it comes to African Americans, and in this instance African American women. But as you also alluded to, African American women have been in the vanguard, in the forefront of the civil rights movement.
Amen.
They are deserving of their rightful place, as we all are, but certainly African American women. And it would be unconscionable not for Biden to do it, which I believe he will do. And then also the governor should also appoint a Kathy Waters to Dauphin County Common Pleas Court. It is time.
I agree. I totally agree. And like you said, it's politically astute to do it. I mean, they're not doing us any favors at all.
No.
politically
But it's the right
astute.
thing to do. It's
And it's
the
It's the
right.
right
right
thing.
thing to do. Do it
Yes.
because it's the right thing to do. And then obviously the political expediency, that's where the votes come from. I mean, that will help Biden. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Help Biden as well.
And
It's the right thing for Biden to do.
and I think of just the people that work in Dauphin County, that reside in Dauphin County. They need to see the representation as it really should be, a mixture. I'll give you an example. I was in criminal court, I want to say 2 weeks ago. And while I was in court, once again, I always tell my daughter, this drives me nuts when I go to court. And so I go up to, I step forward and I say, okay, I need to talk about docket number, da da da. And the lady said, ma'am, the defendants have to wait until we call them. And I said, but it happens all the time. I won't ever give names, but like sometimes attorneys will go look, peering over some of the files. And I've done that in the past, just, and I had one of the male DAs, not recently this year, but I won't say when, but they said, ma'am, only your attorney can look at the files. And I said, oh, okay. But I tend to get it a little more often in Dauphin County. I'm just telling you, I'm going to, some of the other counties. I tend to get it a little bit more in Dauphin County from those that may not know you, younger DAs or whatever. And I just think it's time for there to be a cultural change that everyone needs to reckon with.
And we got to make them do it. We really, 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 really do. Well, we're coming down to the end of the program, and I'm going to ask for some closing remarks from Kathy Waters and from Peter Speaks. It's a closing remarks in terms of our topics.
Well, my closing remarks, first of all, I want to thank you for providing me with the opportunity to speak and with both of you on such critical topics. And with it being Black History Month, I owe homage to both of you. Listen, you helped Peter as well as many others. And Peter, you paid it forward, Peter paid it back. He hired me and helped me. And I want to do the same thing. I want to pay back what Peter paid forward, and we must keep that going. And so I won't say much because there's so much that can be said. I will let Peter and you speak, but I just thank you for the opportunity to talk about such pressing issues that we have to continue to conquer.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, as always, Richard, it's just an honor and a privilege and a blessing to be able to be on the show with you as a friend, as a mentor, and then also Kathy as a friend and as a mentor, and just to talk about such, as she said, pressing and important issues of the day. And, as Kathy knows too, and yourself, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I think that this is God's work, and this is ministry to help others, even particularly as Jesus said, the least among us.
Yes.
So there are many issues locally, state level, and throughout this country that we're confronted with. And the impact that the coronavirus and Omicron and others have had on our children, they have been devastated, and they have lost ground in school as well, and how this is impacting on them. And then you look at what's going on in the world today. So we have to stay focused on what we need to do to uplift others, to encourage others, so that we can be in a better place.
Thank you, Peter. You continue to be a good friend. They say, the Bible said, there abideth three: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And both of you have shown a love for our people and demonstrating it, and we continue to do that. Thank you, my friends, for tuning in to the Richard James Show. We will constantly deal with issues that affect all people because we love all people and we love you. Until next time, until next week, God bless. and may heaven smile upon you. And thank you so much, Kathy, Peter, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. Take care.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. Our African and our African American programs are set up to educate you on what's going on in this world. And thank you for taking out the time to listen. Let's hear from you sometime also. So this is your neighbor and your friend signing off. Until I see you again next week and hear from you again next week. So long. God bless.